Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Oversteer podcast. This is an English-speaking episode. Haven't done that for quite some time now. I think it was back in November when I had a guest who was not from Greece, so he had to speak in a foreign language. For those who may not know me, I'm Dimitris Bidas. I'm the host of the podcast. For those who do know me, will want to know who is my guest for this week. Well, I am super excited, and I'm not saying that just because she agreed to come, but because I am super excited to have Sara Esposito, writer and opinion columnist at Formula 2, and she is probably the most happy person in the world since Sunday, and she's very knowledgeable as well. Well, being knowledgeable is the first one. Sara, welcome.
I am an happy bean. You are right about that. Who isn't? Ferrari is back.
Well, I mean, Mercedes boys are not happy, I'm sure.
Oh, come on. They were on the podium anyway. They can be happy about that.
Sara, how are you?
Fine, and thank you for having me here. This is my first time on a podcast. I'm very happy to be here with you. And I'm sorry to the Greek-speaking people that you have to listen to me attempting to speak English with a very bad Italian accent. But, yep, so it's life.
Well, we have established the fact that I have the cute accent.
You do.
So, yeah. Okay, so that's an inside joke. But you don't have a bad accent. And let me tell you, most Greeks are tifosi. So speaking about their favorite team in any language, even in Swahili, would be fine for them.
It is a thing where, Southern European countries sort of form an alliance. And in that case, Greece and Italy have always been very close when it comes to sports and just, sympathizing for this or that team. And there's always been a huge feedback coming from Greece when it comes to Ferrari and their achievements. And it's always been great, like, as well as attendance to GP. I think Monza had a record attendance of Greek and Spanish and Portuguese, people coming from all over Southern Europe. And they were all tifosi, basically. Which is, you would like to see more representation in Formula One. Of course, you would like to cheer for a Greek driver or a Greek team. But in absence of that, Ferrari is here to welcome you all.
Yeah, Greek driver is already a far-fetched dream. Greek team is like talking science fiction right here. But yeah, I mean, as the wise Sebastian Vettel once said, everyone is a Ferrari fan, even those who don't know it. But it's more or less it's a different thing to have Ferrari back on top, and they bring something different. I think the Italians, of course, we associate them a lot with Formula One, and we associate Formula One with them as well. I think it's pretty evident that they're the most historic team, the most successful in terms of wins, championships. So it's only natural, to be generally upbeat with their resurgence back on top, more than you are.
I do think you cannot spell Formula One without Ferrari. And we need to also sort of agree on how I'm going to pronounce Ferrari, because I do this thing when I speak English where I say it with a very weird accent. And, I'm going to be disowned one of these days for this, because it's Ferrari. And yeah, I think it must be the red. It's hypnotizing. It does something to people. You see the red car and it's so beautiful, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I'm objective. I don't care. I used to be a fan of Michael Schumacher, but I'm not even his son's fan anymore. So, I don't mind. But I do like the fact that all the hard work that these people put for the last 2 years has actually paid dividends. And it's really nice to see the fact that Ferrari, having sacrificed so much since the winter of 2020, have actually achieved their goal, which is produce a race-winning car. I assume you know more than me on that issue, but I'm pretty sure that Ferrari has put lots and lots of work hours on CFD and wind tunnel, and the dyno for their engine in order to be prepared for this new set of regulations.
They surely have. When they say Ferrari is passion, they don't just mean that they make a lot of noise when they win, but they also put a lot of work in what they do. And Ferrari has been working very intently on the 2022 project, as we know, since 2020. They have spent the last 2 years not thinking about where they were on track, because we know it's been a difficult 2 years, but thinking of where they wanted to be back. And that is fighting at the top with the big dogs, being there in the fight, because that is where Ferrari is supposed to be. And of course, a lot of work and a lot of dedication goes into that, as well as a lot of resources. And Ferrari has heavily invested in, development for the 2022 cars. Not only the design of the project, but they also have a new simulator, which was already in function last year. They used it for the last 2 races of the year, for Jeddah and for Abu Dhabi. And, their biggest issue in past years has been the correlation, which is very important because you have to make sure that the data that you gather on track with these cars then corresponds to what you see in the simulator on a computer in order to work on upgrades for the car that actually work. As we know, Ferrari has lost the championship on a bad streak of upgrades that did not work in 2018. So this is very good news for Ferrari because they have found very good correlation from the get-going with the new simulator. They had a car that was already set up for the Sunday as soon as they brought it out on the track on the Friday in Jeddah. And again, it was the case at testing. It was the case at Bahrain. They have a car that seems to be one of those plug-and-play cars, isn't it? It's a car that needs very minor tweaking because they have already done the setup work back in the simulator. And that is a huge advantage for a team that at this moment in the championship, which has just begun, so, hold your horses. But it's a good sign for what's to come in this 2022, because as we know, it will be a development war, because you cannot expect Mercedes to be there forever. I know they're struggling right now, but it's still Mercedes. And you can expect Red Bull to work on whatever issue they are experiencing right now with the power unit, and other teams as well. They will for sure work on development and to bring upgrades as soon as possible in order to, get as much as they can from the start of the 2022 season. Then, as we've heard already, a lot of people are been saying this since the regulations were published. By the end of the season, they will all converge. It will be a copy paste. Everyone will find a solution, and we will see the cars become more and more similar. But for the moment, it's all about who's got the best base package.
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember fondly having covered the sport since approximately 2012, 2013. I remember Ferrari trying to keep up with the other teams, when developing the car, and they just couldn't do it. They brought upgrades that didn't work. They tried to do stuff and experiment a bit with their car, but it didn't actually work. And of course, the latest example of that is, of course, the 2018 season, which is a huge irony because 2018 was lost in many ways by both Sebastian and the Ferrari team, because Sebastian did a mistake, but also Ferrari didn't actually help with the development of the car at one point of the season onwards. So it's honestly really good to see the fact that they already have a good package right now, and they start with somehow a head start, if I can say it like that, because for one, Ferrari do need that extra motivation. I think they do need the winning feeling. And I want your opinion on that, because us not being in Italy think that there is huge public pressure to Ferrari to actually continue with their winning ways or start winning again, especially during the past 2 seasons. was that the case? Was the Italian press and the Italian public be like, you know what, get your beep together and try to be better? Or it was more like, okay, we can see what you're doing and we're waiting for the new regulations?
That's a good question. And no, of course they weren't like, okay, we understand that you can't do anything right now because there's a freeze. So just keep working on the next project. No. And it's not just the public either. Think about Mattia Binotto and the pressure that man was subjected to in the last couple of years, because his role within Ferrari was basically hanging from this car, from the F175, on him delivering on this project, because this car is his baby. The team that we see today is a team that's very different from the team that Mattia took on back in 2019 when he became team principal in Ferrari. And, he's worked for it. He's put together a team of people that were wronged in some ways by the public opinion as well, by the paddock as well. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of talk about Ferrari being too Italian, which, in my opinion, has always been something very stupid. They are an Italian team. Of course, they're going to have Italian engineers. It's, one of the prerequisites to work in Maranello. You have to live here. You have to speak the language. But Mattia Binotto was very headstrong. He knew that he could trust his people. Let's remember, he's been in Ferrari forever, since 1996. And, he has his group of people, and the people in Maranello, they trust him and they see a very good reference in him. And I have to say, so far, the man has delivered, not just with the car, but also with the drivers. With, if you think about the choices that he made, some very hard. I know people are still not very happy about Ferrari's treatment of Sebastian Vettel, but when you think about it, that was the correct choice. Because you look at Carlos Sainz and how he compares to Charles Leclerc, who we all know, for all the talk that we were this winter break, we all know that Ferrari has a kind of an eye of regard for Charles Leclerc. He's their academy driver. He's their little champion in the making. He's always been. That's been his tag since his debut in Formula One. And with Carlos Sainz, they have found a teammate that can be there the day Charles maybe isn't there, because we still don't know if he's ready, even though he for sure has the talent. So I think it's a really good situation, the one that they themselves have built right now, because they worked again in every possible way to be where they are right now. Then, of course, you need to see how the situation will evolve. But I have good faith that Ferrari will keep working in this way, in a very calm manner, just analyzing the data and doing the best out of every situation, working on the upgrades, seemingly in a different way compared to Mercedes and Red Bull, because that is also another topic. Maybe I'm just like now jumping from topic to topic. You'll have to stop me, but I mentioned before the development war.
Yeah. It's huge, yeah?
I mean, like I said before, the development war is going to be a parallel war that we're going to have this season, because teams, of course, are going to work on that. And we've seen that these are new cars. They still need to understand these cars in order to then upgrade them. But we can already see at the start that Mercedes and Red Bull have brought two big packages before the season even started. They bought them in testing. Mercedes came to Bahrain with a Mercedes Spec B, one can almost say, and Red Bull as well. On the third day of testing in Bahrain, they had a big upgrade on the thigh pods. And, that's big stuff. Those are big resources and big money already done. The team have invested in those cars. And let's remember that there is a budget cap this year, and it's very strict. And Ferrari didn't have to do that. So they can just work on gathering the data and then bring the upgrade whenever they want. Because as of right now, they don't have to recover anything.
I mean, regarding, I will start with Mattia, because I was one of those people who said, I think Ferrari needs a combination of a British German kind of alliance with Italians, like the old days with Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, Jean Todt on the wheel, and Michael Schumacher driving for them. But I think Binotto has managed to produce a winning team out of the resources and the people he already had. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't do any big signings during those 2 years. They are cooperating with Wolf Zimmermann, who is the engine guru, and he has worked, I think, with every constructor ever. But they didn't do any big signings. They didn't go after huge names like other teams have. And of course, this required a huge faith in their own capacity, in their own people, which to me seems like it's a better way to move forward, because if you show the needed trust to these people that are part of your, let's say, upper management in terms of the technical department, then you have them for life. Basically, you show them that you believe in them and you believe in their work and their path of development and research and development in the team, and you just gain their trust, and you have them confidently working on the next projects. And that's really nice, and that's good, because you lose them more difficultly as well. You're not afraid of another team coming up and saying, you know what, we want that head of vehicle dynamics or anything like that, because that person believes that he can be the best he can be, or she, in Ferrari, and believes in the team. And as far as Mattia goes, I think he's the most calm team principal I can remember guiding Ferrari towards a winning campaign. I don't know if it's going to be a championship campaign. We'll have to wait for that. It's only been one race, but he already won a race with that new car. He's a very calm and collected person. I think he's the most calm voice that I have ever heard speak Italian basically, in my 25 years of existence. You think he's almost non-Italian, but he's very much Italian. He's been with Ferrari as long as I live, actually, since 1996, as you said. So it's interesting that he's the person that John Elkann really believes in. And there were these rumors regarding Jean Todt coming back as a consultant. I think I want your opinion on that briefly. I think it's for the better of all parties that Jean didn't return, because he may, I don't know, he could disrupt the atmosphere, the chemistry, and it's good that John said, you know what, no, we like how things are right now. We don't want to show Mattia Binotto that we don't trust him enough, and we have to bring an old dog to do the trick. But they didn't, and they showed him that they believe in him.
Okay, so with Ferrari, there's always some level of power play involved at the top. So thing with Jean Todt is that Mattia Binotto, who, by the way, is Swiss Italian, he was actually born in Lausanne. So yeah, I know he looks and sounds like the most Italian person ever, but he's Swiss Italian. His passport is Italian, actually.
Well, Günther is Italian, and you don't see that in him, do you? Because he's from South Tyrol.
Actually, whenever he speaks Italian in interviews on, Sky Italy, I always have some kind of shock when he speaks, and he speaks perfect Italian, because of course he does. He's Italian. But I always have that kind of shock, like, oh my God, his Italian is really good. Because
he doesn't have any German pronunciation?
No, not at all. Just like a northern Italian accent. Yeah, much like Mattia Binotto. Very thick northern Italian accent, but it doesn't sound German at all. It just sounds very Italian, and it's some kind of shock, because you're used to, I don't know, Drive to Survive Gunther. It's like, oh, fuck, smash my door. So, yeah. Back to Mattia Binotto.
Well, I'll have to put the episode as an explicit. Oh my God, don't swear.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Chiedo scusa. Back to Mattia Binotto. He has already worked with Jean Todt. In fact, he's worked with Jean Todt during the Michael Schumacher domination. So he's very, very close to him and very good friends. And Mattia Binotto would have actually wanted his return in Ferrari. It was John Elkann who said no. And the reason for that, there's a lot of speculation. There's a bit of this and that. You never know how it is with Ferrari because they never tell you the things the way they are. But it looked almost like Jean Todt being there would put John Elkann's role in contention, like make him look weak, because they needed someone like Jean Todt to come in and work as a middleman, basically, between the upper management and Mattia Binotto, who would have still been the team principal at Ferrari. It would have been the support within management, upper management, that Mattia Binotto would have liked. But yeah, it didn't happen. Didn't happen for other reasons as well, not just this. But so it's life. I don't think that Ferrari really needed Jean Todt, because I think what we said before about building trust, right? I think Mattia Binotto, being an engineer and being a team person, basically, because he works with engineer and his team trusts him because he's knowledgeable, he knows what he's talking about. And I think that also contributed to him being a role model inside the Gestione Sportiva at Maranello. People really like him in there. And what you said about him being one of the calmest person ever, like, especially when you look at what happened last year with Toto Wolff and Christian Horner and all the drama, you would never imagine Mattia Binotto to get involved into something like that. It just doesn't seem like that kind of person. And you might absolutely be right, because he's not the kind of person. He's not a politician. He's an engineer.
Yeah, he has that background, and I think it helps. I agree with that. It helps with how he manages things, how he conducts himself. It's really nice to see. I do like the vibe that Mattia gives off. I really do. And it makes sense that he's half Swiss. I see it in him. And yeah, what can you say? I mean, Ferrari gives you the impression that it's in a more healthy state than it was a couple of years ago. I will not have you speak about that issue, but I will, because no one can do anything to me. I'm Greek, come at me. But I think Maurizio Bene was not the person to lead them out of that slump. I always have the impression, because I cover automotive stuff as well, I have that background as well in my field. I always had that impression that Sergio Marchionne, as the CEO and chairman of Ferrari, was a man that could lead them back to the winning ways. But he chose a very, how can I say, bigger than F1 personality to lead them. Ferrari, I don't think, needed that at the moment. They needed someone more like Mattia. And with Marchionne's untimely passing during the summer of 2018, I think that plan fell apart. The only thing that stood was his decision to promote Charles from the Alfa Romeo squad to Ferrari, replacing Kimi. And it's really nice that the new chairman, the new president, said, you know what, we're going to change things around here. And he went ahead with Mattia as team principal and managing director, whatever that means. To me, it all sounds the same. Yada, 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 I'm the head of everything. But corporate talk is not my talk. But yeah, I do like the feeling I get from Scuderia. And it's interesting to me that you mentioned Gestione Sportiva, because not a lot of people understand that Ferrari is one thing, but when it comes to motorsport, Mattia is the guy, like the guy. He has every say, every final say. He consults with John Elkann, of course, but he's the guy, which is amazing. Not only for Formula One, I think Gestione Sportiva means absolutely everything motorsport-wise. GT racing, endurance racing, all that stuff. So he's really capable. That man is capable.
Yeah, it's the racing department of Ferrari. It's the whole thing, like you said. But on that note, I wanted to add something. You mentioned Marchionne, you mentioned Arrivabene, and I absolutely agree with you. Arrivabene was not the man to lead Ferrari out of the slump. In fact, under Arrivabene, there was some sort of reign of terror in Gestione Sportiva. The man just kept firing people, and we've lost some very important members to Maurizio Arrivabene. And you would be wrong to think that Mattia Binotto wasn't pushing to have the role that Danny got in 2019. And it wasn't only due to Sergio Marchionne sadly passing away prematurely, but Mattia Binotto had also been, as the head of the motorsport division of Ferrari, he'd also been following Charles in the FDA, and he very much was behind the whole thing. That is why you always see him speaking in really, really flattering terms about him, because he is the first Ferrari Academy driver to actually make it to Ferrari. And he made it possible. He pushed and, he kicked and screamed, basically, to have him there and to be his team principal. And that was, they say, Marchionne's, deathbed wish for the young kid to actually be given a chance in Formula One, and for Mattia Binotto to put a stop to whatever Maurizio Arrivabene had done to Ferrari. So 2019 was sort of the testing ground. And of course, Charles was paired with Sebastian Vettel, who, as a 4-time world champion, was not the easiest teammate to go up against. But the kid delivered. What can he say? And that sort of proved Mattia Binotto's point as well, and the worth of the Ferrari Academy. It was a win-win, despite the season ending with a double DNF in Brazil, which I will still pretend didn't happen. I cannot believe that those two spent the entire 2019 season going up against each other and basically in a pacing contest, only to double DNF because of the smallest of touches between them in Brazil.
Yeah.
I still cannot believe that happened.
Oh, Sara,
But
it's
they
fine.
learned from it.
Yeah, I mean, they became bitter rivals at one point for a brief moment, but I would like your opinion on Sebastian, because he didn't achieve his goal. Ferrari didn't achieve their goal with him either. One more champion that went in and out of Ferrari without winning anything. Nigel Mansell, Alain Prost, Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel. In that very unfortunate list. But can we credit him for the continuation of, not a continuation, for the resurgence of the team? Do we think that he played any role in that during his 2 seasons with Mattia as his team principal, or it's just too far away, too irrelevant for the current situation?
You mean in terms of helping with development for the 2022 cars?
Not only that, I mean, a driver is a personality in the team that everyone should respect. Do we think that with him being so cooperative and so calm and, not being a Fernando Alonso type of driver, actually helped the team to feel more secure and help with his personality and his presence in Maranello, the team to actually start coming back? Or nothing? None of what I said is true.
Oh, okay. So talking about Sebastian Vettel pains me, because I really like him, both as a driver and as a person. He's a great man. But the thing about Sebastian, I don't know if it was bad timing or if it was just a marriage that was never destined to work. As much as he loved Ferrari, and as much as Ferrari loved him, because he was very loved by the people, by the tifosi, the two just did not work together. Because, Sebastian Vettel was given a car, he was given more than a chance, and he couldn't make the best out of it. I don't want to point fingers. I don't want to say it was all his fault, who lost 20. I don't know. They certainly didn't help each other. Let's put it like that. Because on one side you have, yes, the upgrades that failed, and on the other you also have a series of mistakes by Sebastian Vettel. But I do think that Sebastian Vettel, and that is also the reason why Mattia Binotto actually wanted to keep him on in 2020, he was a very good reference for Charles, because he's a very, very good driver in general, and he understands the car. He knows how to set it up, and he's very involved with everything in the garage. And he was still, I know 2020 is a painful chapter in his career, but he's still very much a very good driver. So, yes, on one hand, you want to say Ferrari did well, getting rid of him, getting Carlos on, etc., etc. On the other, I still think that Sebastian's time there, and especially his time with Charles, was very formative for the team and for Charles as well, but also for the team, because he's a very positive presence, like you said as well, and he kept the team together through good and bad times. So, yeah, I don't think any chance is ever really wasted, if you want to put it like that. I think his time in Ferrari ended on a sad note, for sure, but he had some good years.
Coming back to the present, do we think Charles is ready for a championship bout? Because, at the end of the day, I find myself always saying the same thing as I said with Max last year. I said, let's see, a championship fight wears you down, is a big pressure on your shoulders. We'll have to wait and see. Now, if the championship fight is between him and Verstappen, the experienced guy, ironically, is Max, and Charles is the one who has to prove himself up against the champion. Of course, it's not the same as having to deal with Lewis Hamilton, who is a 7-time world champion and a 16-season veteran. But still, Max has the experience and has the title to prove it. Charles doesn't. He's a 3-time winner. Sure, he has lots of podiums, absolutely, lots of pole positions, but not a title winner. And by no means in a title fight up until now. So, do we believe in his pedigree? Do we believe in his ability to fight for the title?
Again, very good question. But in this case, I will say that our answer really doesn't matter, because you should ask Charles this question. Are you ready to fight for a championship? And I know you want me to give you an answer, of course. And I have blind faith in Charles Leclerc, because I've been watching him since he was a little boy in karts, literally. My dad used to follow him in karts. Not just him, just he used to follow karts in general, karting. And he's always tagged him and Max as two generational talents. And, they do have a past, a bit of a tricky past in karting together. Let's put it like that, the incident. But I disagree with you when you say that Charles has never been in a championship fight, because Charles won F3 on his first year and F2 on his first year in his rookie season. He's had, a certain a certain training already with dealing with pressure. And especially his F2 season, which he didn't just win, he dominated everyone on that grid. It was great to see. It was just, oof, really good. Chef's kiss. But let's remember that during that season, Charles had to deal with the death of his father as well. And on the very same weekend, he raced in Baku. He won that race. He won the sprint. He got the pole. And then, oh my God, I get chills whenever I read this story because, when he got on the plane, Maurizio Arrivabene told him, "What are you doing here? Just, stay home. It's time to mourn now." And Charles gave him an answer. And his answer was, first I'm going to win and then I'm going to grieve. Which is, wow, when you think it's coming from a 19-year-old, wow. I just cannot even begin to think about the mental strength it takes. And that is always what has impressed me the most about Charles. His nerves. He has nerves of steel. And he's already showed it, in my opinion. Of course, in the past, in Formula One as well. But on Sunday, he played Verstappen like a fiddle. With that move into turn 1, 3 times in a row. And he was dealing on top of everything with an issue with the ERS recovery. He had no recovery and he couldn't even, I don't know if you've seen the onboards, but he didn't even he didn't even engage 8th gear on the straights. He just let Verstappen through in turn 1, knowing that he would get him in traction between turn 2, 3, 4. He did this for 3 times, not once. And Verstappen fell for it 3 times in a row, up until on the last attempt, he got a big lock-up and he fried his tires. And that, one could say, oh my God, Charles Leclerc, where did it come from? That's always been Charles Leclerc. If you really were paying attention, he's been driving an uncompetitive car for the past 2 years, but he's shown signs of brilliance, absolute brilliance on track already. In 2020, he was great. I mean, we know his qualifying is absolutely, to me, he's one of the best qualifiers on the grid, if not the best qualifier on the grid. But also in his racecraft, the growth he's had from 2019 when, yes, he was driving, you could say, a competitive car, not a car that could compete for the title, but it was pretty good. The car could win races. And you see that it was a rookie. He was still making mistakes. He couldn't look after his tires, probably. He was losing in the race pace comparison with Sebastian Vettel, who's one of the best on the grid. But already in 2020, when you look at the 2 British GP that we had that year, the 2 Silverstones, I don't know which one is my favorite. It was one better than the other. And again, last year in Kota, he had a master race. And in Silverstone as well, he almost won the race. And the thing about Charles Leclerc in 2021, yes, he lost in the standings to Carlos Sainz. So people start thinking, oh, maybe he's overrated. But the thing is, he still finished 4th more than anyone else. And when he finished 4th, it was only because his car could not fight for the top 3. And behind him, there will be gaps of 15, 20 seconds to be 5. It didn't just finish 4, He dominated the midfield. He was in a limbo in a couple of races there. He was racing no one. It was just sort of there in Spain, in Kota, in Imola even, before the red flag, of course. So, yes, it's easy to overlook a talent like that when he's not fighting at the top. It happens with everyone, and it's going to happen with other talents on the grid for sure. But I absolutely have no doubts that Charles Leclerc will deliver this year because he's hungry. He's there to win. He said it last Sunday after the race. I wouldn't wake up and get out of bed if I didn't think that I could win the title. That's why I'm here. That's why I race. I want to win. I don't think about the rest. And that is the sort of mentality you got to have. Not celebrating every small achievement like, oh my God, I got pole. I am the best. Or I just won a race. No. He was so collected after his pole. And he was so collected after the race. It's I think it's a good mentality that he has, and he's demonstrated in the past that he's very strong. He can absolutely deal with the pressure. I mean, he won Monza on his first year with Ferrari, and that is a big deal, not a small feat, because the last Ferrari driver to win Monza was Fernando Alonso. So, yeah, I have full faith in him. I do think he's ready. He thinks he's ready, so I believe him, basically.
I will play the devil's advocate and say, you know what? He has done mistakes in crucial times. He's prone to making mistakes in crucial times, in crucial situations.
Oh, you just want to make me mad now.
No, I'm not. I always try to see a driver in both his best and worst light, because that's when you realize if the weaknesses outweigh the strengths or the opposite is true. I think with Charles is the strengths outweigh the weaknesses. I don't think it's the other way around, surely. But to me, Max is more ready. He was even last year more ready. He doesn't make any mistakes he doesn't want to make, meaning he will provoke a crash only if he wants to provoke a crash, which is another conversation on its own. But Charles seems like he does mistakes on his own. He doesn't do them during a fight or anything. Baku is one of them. Monaco is another. It's it's telling of his maybe immaturity in a sense of fighting for the title in F1, because fighting for the F2 or F3 title is pretty decent for a young driver, and to be fair, it's needed for you to be able to progress to the next level. If you're not a championship winning caliber of driver on those feeder series, you're not going to make F1 unless, I don't know, you have a very rich dad. But other than that, you have to prove yourself on the big league with the big boys. So, I feel like Charles is a good driver, but he can crumble under pressure sometimes and on his own. I mean, the Monaco mistake was not provoked by anyone. He just did it on his own. The Baku one as well. A couple of mistakes, even in Bahrain. I don't know. He does mistakes to find the limit. Is that his tactic? Could be. I don't know. But if I'll say it outright. If I have to choose between Charles and Max, I would get Max any day of the week on that car.
Okay, let's make a bet then. Let's make a bet.
I don't bet, but let's hear it.
Okay, so of course, I'm putting my money in a shot, because playing devil's advocate on my own, I would need to say that those mistakes need to be contextualized, because you can afford, and he said it himself, you can afford to make those mistakes when you're not fighting for a title. And Baku, you're talking about 2019. I mean, he's fighting for his second career pole. He's just going for it. He makes a mistake. It's fair. It's his first year with Ferrari, whatever. Of course, it's a big issue that weekend, but he more than made up for it in the race, in my opinion. In Monaco last year as well, there was this thing where I don't think it was necessarily pressure, but it was more the fact that it was a now or never kind of situation, because Ferrari was good on Monaco, but they had absolutely no assurance that they would be that competitive anywhere else during that season. And so, again, I don't think it's the pressure. It's just the fact that, Max could have got a pole as well, and he really, really wanted to maximize the pole. And he went for that limit, and he found a wall, sadly. But at the same time, I think he had a very clean 2021 season. He didn't really make that many mistakes last year. Of course, Monaco stands there as a reminder that he absolutely wasted a big chance. But at the same time, apart from maybe the contact at the Styrian Grand Prix with Gasly on lap 1, which in my opinion was a textbook racing incident. It wasn't anything bad. It wasn't like a dive bomb or whatever. So he had a very clean season last year. He was very unlucky, very unlucky with all the red flag situations and being crashed in Hungary as well. And Sochi with the rain. I know people think that he didn't want to come in. Charles was one of the first to make the call to pit. He couldn't pit in the same lap because Carlos was ahead on track and Ferrari wasn't ready to double stack. So they pitted Carlos and they left Charles out. And by the time Charles made that extra lap, he'd already lost 12 positions. He was, not dead last, but he was pretty down the standings if it pitted at that moment. So he stayed out because the situation at that moment was still kind of okay. And then the rain only got worse and we know how it ended. But it's one of those situations where he risked it because he could afford it. Because at that moment, he wasn't really losing much. He couldn't pit the first lap. He'd already lost the window. And again, Turkey, he had a great race. He made a bet. He tried to make a non-stop, basically. And he backfired because, of course, at the end, he had to stop. But right at that moment, that wasn't bad strategy. It was a risk. It was gamble. It didn't work out. But, when you're not fighting for a championship, you can afford those gambles. You can afford the risk. Charles could afford to send it in Monaco because he wouldn't have any effect on the standings because he's not fighting for P5. He's not fighting for P4. He's fighting for P1. And this year, he's finally able to actually fight for P1. So I don't think we've still seen that Charles, the Charles that puts everything together. And it might be wishful thinking on my side, but I do think that he is more than able to put it together, clean his act, and, show us what he's really made of, which will be good for everyone, by the way, because if the season proceeds as the opener, my God, bring it on. That was a good battle.
Yeah, a fair one as well. I think they were pretty okay with each other. Maybe there is more respect from Max towards Charles and Charles towards Max than Lewis and Max last year because they grew up together, they raced together. I don't know, my opinion.
I don't think it's respect. I get where you're coming from, but I don't think it's a matter of respect. I do think Max respected Lewis. I just think that they didn't understand each other. While Max and Charles, they basically had the same style. And, when you're going up against someone who refuses to be pushed out in Q1, like he will never give up Charles, right? Max cannot pull his moves on Charles because Charles is sort of a mirror and a barrier at the same time. So in a way, the fact that their styles are so similar, then they can anticipate each other's moves on the track. It forces Max to reinvent himself in the fight. And that can be only good because the few fights we've seen between these two, and that includes Silverstone 2019, which is one of my favorites, actually. But they almost looked like they were choreographed. Like they were dancing around each other. It's so good to see. And the same happened Sunday. I think that, we're going to get the crash because it's part of the competition. You're going to get the big crash of the season. One of them is going to make a mistake, whatever. But I think that they both also know that is part of the competition and will be able to just put it behind them, and go on. And because after a round, there's always another round, right? So just go back at it. I think that's the way that Max and Charles are wired. With Lewis, it's a bit different. In a way, I could see the same sort of cohesion, that feeling. It's like when you find your dance partner, and you can really dance with him on track. It was like that between Lewis and Fernando. If you think about it, it wasn't like that between Lewis and Seb, because Seb again is more like Max. Is very, I want to say, emotive when he drives. Like it's all about being aggressive. But Lewis is a bit more like Fernando, a bit more smart, a bit of a manipulator. And I don't mean this in a bad way, by the way. It's the best possible way. I think they're both some of the best racers we've seen in Formula One. And we are very lucky to still have them on track because they can still school people.
Don't use my terminology, please. I will trademark it.
Oh, sorry. No, but I'm a big Nando fan, and I'm a big Lewis fan as well. I think they are so
the contradiction.
Way. I know, right? But I think they're similar. And I also am a big Shaw fan and a big Max fan. I don't know how I'm even real. Like Twitter hates me for this. They can't believe that I can support both drivers in a rivalry. But it is exactly the way that I'm wired. I like seeing these dynamics, and I like when two drivers battle against each other and they seem to really understand each other on track. It was the same with Michael and Mika. They had a sort of, I don't know, it was like best friends fighting on track. That is the best sort of rivalry. I think Lewis and Max didn't work because they really didn't understand each other.
Yeah.
Their styles were just like clashing.
Yeah, but that's the past, so we'll have to focus on...
I don't think it's past. You're just like... You would already decided that Mercedes is going to be out of the fight this season. It's in the past.
No, it's a Lewis versus Max fight is just... between those two is the past. If we go by Bahrain, at the very least, it's going to be Leclerc versus Verstappen versus Hamilton, not just Verstappen versus Hamilton. So
that's going to be interesting, a threesome.
Well, I mean, let's wait. I don't want to discuss that now because I think that Mercedes have a huge mountain to climb right now before even calling them race winners for this year. So we'll have to wait and see. And of course, we'll have to wait and see how the old guard will fare with the young folks, because Lewis is the old guard, very, very much the old guard. Charles and Max are really, really young, and
you got Russell as well.
Well, Russell fans will hate me for this, but I don't see him as a title contender as of now. I think he has to... No, I think he has it in him, but he reminds me of Charles in 2019. First year in a big team, he has to make his break. He has to win one race. He has to get the podium finish with Mercedes in a normal race. Spa doesn't count to me. He has to do that first. He has to get that out of the way in order to be a title contender, just so he can make his break.
Yeah, I do agree. I also don't see him beating Lewis because it's Lewis. Like, come on, it's Lewis. It's not gonna be easy.
No, but Sebastian is Sebastian as well, and even a demotivated Sebastian Vettel is still a 4-time world champion, so you cannot count him out.
That's when talent really emerges. I sort of agree with you there on George Russell in the sense that he's fast, for sure. He's fast, but his will to will really doesn't convince me. It's also the fact that we haven't seen him doing much of that because he's been relegated to a very uncompetitive Williams for how many years? 3?
Yeah.
And that is not great because the moment that George Russell found himself in a fighting position in the midfield last year, well, ask Bottas how it ended.
Oh, please don't. Poor man, let him be. He's in Alpha right now. He's having better days.
No. I fully blame George. Wait a second. I fully blame George for that move in Imola. What was that? Valtteri was not at fault. And I love Valtteri, by the way.
I will refrain from commenting on that because I want to be well and see out the whole season before someone finds me and, I don't know, do something to me. But yeah, I mean, Going back to Ferrari and Salz and the championship battle, it's an interesting situation. I think we're going to see the best and worst coming out of those two, and Lewis, if he gets to join them in the future, should Mercedes get on top of their issues, their many issues. I want to conclude the episode with possibly the focal point of this car, which is the engine. Right now, the cat's out of the bag. Pretty much everyone says, you know what, Ferrari has the most powerful engine on the grid. You don't have to be a journalist, you don't have to be a reporter, you don't have to work for any publication to see that.
Yeah.
I'll take the side of a fan and ask a pretty simple question. How the hell did they do it? Meaning, is this going to be the case for the next 5 years because the engine froze? Or do we think that the others will catch up eventually with one way or another?
Well, I certainly hope it's going to be the case as a Ferrari fan. But, there is a freeze, so they cannot catch up even if they wanted to. But the thing is that I think the issues on these cars are also masking the power on these cars. I don't think that Mercedes is that far behind with the power unit, despite their customers complaining about it. I do think they're a bit behind on power, just as Honda is a bit behind on power compared to Ferrari. Ferrari has put together a really good power unit. And how did they do it? It's Ferrari. They build engines. They are famous for it. So there's also another note is that Shell has done a really, really good job on the E10 fuel. And, we knew that teams or engines, modern teams, the engines were going to lose some performance due to the switch to E10 fuel. But Ferrari hasn't lost anything. And I'll tell you more about that Ferrari power unit, which is called Superfast, and I find that incredibly funny. But I'll tell you more about it. There is still a margin on the power unit because, of course, Ferrari isn't pushing it yet. They never do at the start of the season. So they will eventually get to the point where this power unit will be even more powerful. And you could already see in Bahrain how powerful it was on the Alpha, on the As, but also on the Ferrari, despite them running higher downforce.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also another focal point of this season, the battle of the setup, because whichever team will be able to use more downforce on these cars will have a huge advantage because they are so rigid and you need all the extra downforce that you can get. But at the same time, you don't want that to, make you slow on the straight. But Ferrari can afford running more downforce without losing too much on the straights. When you compare the top speeds with Red Bull, but also when you look at the sectors more than comparing the top speeds, because the top speeds themselves are indicative of much. Just look at the sectors. Red Bull only managed to be faster at the end of the straights due to running less downforce. It wasn't necessarily a matter of power. So, watch out for the power unit. I think Maranello has a lot to be proud of, and they are sounding and looking very confident because they've been working on this since 2019, since they got hit by whatever it was that's in that private settlement. We will never know. But they got hit pretty hard, and we know where their engine was in 2020.
So, Monza victory?
Oh, hell yes. I am planning to go to Monza. I want to see Ferrari win there.
Then I'll have to be there as well too, because if that happens, it will be a sight to behold. I don't want to miss that.
Are you planning to learn the lyrics to the Italian national anthem? You'll have to. You have to sing it once you're there.
I know it already. I already know it. Fratelli d'Italia, Italia se testa dell'elmo di Scipio si sente la testa dove la vittoria. I can cite it. I grew up in the Michael Schumacher era.
Yeah.
I used to know the German one, but
Well, now I just need to teach you the Monegasque anthem.
the Monegasque anthem is so upbeat and so close to the Italian one. It's like they were born.
Yeah,
they were born from the same composer.
Yeah, it's a very, very happy combo on the podium. I love it.
Yeah, better than the British German, which is a bit more Anglo-Saxonic, a bit more dark. The German Italian was nice as well. I really liked the combination. And the Spanish Italian, I think. But yeah, I mean, if Monza sees Charles or Carlos win this year, I think it's going to erupt. I think Milano, and I refuse to call it Milan or Milano.
Milano, yes.
I refuse to call it in the English because in Greek it's also Milano, so we can do that.
Thank you for that.
But yeah, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same with Arabic words. I refuse to pronounce them in the English way because we're so close to the Arabic language here in Greece that I just refuse. So Milano is going to explode. I think it's going to vaporize from the map for a couple of days. But it's going to be, yeah.
Did you see what happened in Maranello last Sunday? People were in the streets with their cars honking like crazy with fireworks, with the flags and everything. Yeah, and it was just the first win of the season.
Maranello is like a small village, or is it more like a city? I don't know.
It's a small town. But Maranello is Ferrari, basically. Everything there is named after Ferrari. So, it was very, very nice to see those images. It's been so long. Ferrari deserves this. And I think the fans deserve it as well to celebrate it. Not too soon. We haven't won the title yet. But let's rejoice for once.
As an objective person, I just wish we have a great title fight on our hands right now. We have the personalities to support that in Charles, Carlos, Max, Lewis. We have the grand names to support it as well. Ferrari, Mercedes, even Red Bull is a historic team nowadays after all these years. And I think that we're in for a very interesting season. At the very least, we're going to have multiple race winners. And I just hope that it produces a title fight at least equal to the 2021 one. Bar the
drama.
The toxicity. Yeah, the drama, the toxicity. But you have that as well. It's part of the game. Sara, anything to add before we conclude?
Forza Ferrari?
Well, that sentiment only belongs to you. I will not say it. I will refrain.
Everyone is a Ferrari fan. Come on.
No, yeah, I'm not a Ferrari fan. I used to be a Michael Schumacher fan. I learned German because I wanted to speak with him one day. As a child, I thought foolish like that. Yeah, that happened. But I'm not a Ferrari fan. But yeah, I don't know. Many of my Greek followers and listeners are. So I'm really glad that you came by, Sara. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm really fun here. I don't know what I'm doing, but I had fun.
No, you did great for your podcast debut. I'm really glad that it happened here. And yeah, you can follow Sara and see her work on the links I will leave on the notes below. Whenever you want and wherever you listen to the podcast, you can always visit her Twitter profile and Formula.uno to read articles not only from her but from all the editors, and they do an amazing job. For the little Italian I know, I put them in use there. The other things I have to translate them to English. But other than that, they are an insightful publication, and Sara is an amazing writer. I really love her writings, and I really love her takes, even if I disagree with some of them. I appreciate and respect them. So I think that's it. So please, if you're not a Greek person and you're wondering what you're doing here, you'll be very sad to know that I'm Greek and I speak Greek on 99% of my episodes. But from time to time, we do have special guests, so make sure you follow if you want, and make sure you see all the previous bonus episodes. Most of them are with English-speaking guests, and I think you will enjoy them as well. And yeah, other than that, to my Greek listeners, thank you very much. We'll see each other again on Monday after the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And Sara, what can I say? Mille grazie. What else? My Italian are failing me right now. You can say something in Greek. You can say something in Greek.
Via, tria, tessera.
No. That's the start of it all. Do you know how to say thank you?
Ευχαριστώ.
Oh, you do? Okay. Παρακαλώ then. And yeah, that's all. No, that's for the morning. If you're listening to in the morning, yeah, thanks. But
Kalispera, if you're listening in the evening, though.
Oh God, he schooled me. She schooled me. Sorry,
Damn.
She schooled me.
Yes, queen. How do you say that in Greek?
There's nothing in Greek. We say it yes, queen as well. It's so good in English as it is.
Very international. I like that.
Yeah, the yesification of the podcast is complete. Thank you very much. And see you again on Twitter. And of course, follow Sara and read all her articles. Until the next time, bye-bye.